This episode of Armchair Expert is presented by Apple TV, the new U.S. home of Formula One. Starting March 7th, you can watch complete all-access live coverage of every Grand Prix, including practice, qualifying, and sprints, all in one place. Watch every race live only on Apple TV. Well, you know what, really? And I'm nervous to be too optimistic, but we had a microbiome expert on.
Yeah.
Who has a probiotic that actually is real.
Okay.
And I've been on it for I think 2 weeks.
And probably not even. Probably
10
like
days. No, you're
week
right.
or something.
Yeah,
we've been on it. Yeah.
And I was in Detroit and I cheated on my diet.
Sure.
And I had gluten and sugar. And I didn't have any rash and my joints didn't hurt. And I'm like, did it fix my leaky gut and all of it?
That fast? Maybe.
I don't know.
So,
It
maybe
could.
that with that exclusionary diet?
Yes.
Because I've been gluten-free for 5 years because of this.
Do you have psoriatic arthritis?
Yeah.
You do. Don't you think it's the sexiest autoimmune?
Oh, it's so good. I'm walking around, I'm like, I can feel like it's cold outside. My husband's like,
Oh, no.
How long have you had it or been diagnosed with it?
So I was diagnosed with psoriasis in 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
my goodness,
early.
okay.
Long time, but it didn't affect my joints until I got out of medical school, and I was like, what is this? Why am I elderly? Why is this? And I did my residency in Phoenix, and it was warm and nice, and I didn't really notice things. And then I moved back to Kansas City where it was cold, and I was like, something is wrong with me. It was horrific. And then I was like, okay, well, let me just up Pilates or up something else that's going to help me with
Must be my
this.
fault.
Yeah.
Right?
And
I must need to do more.
Okay. And then I went and I got the full workup, and I was like, I also have horrible rashes all over my actual joints.
Oh.
And then they were like, well, I was like, okay.
Yeah. I have to point out, we're all wearing blue.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
I
And there
know.
was no, we're wearing basically the same outfit, black pants and a blue top. Go
And you
change.
also both have the most beautiful skin tone and hair tone.
We're the
I
same
feel-
person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, long lost twins.
You could bridge the divide between Pakistan and India.
That's what I'm
That's
doing
what we're
today.
here- That's what we're here to do.
Today.
When we leave here, that'll be solved.
Weird.
But I am curious because you must experience this bit of dissonance, right? Where you've gone to medical school and then things are happening to you, but you're somehow not using the same criteria or you can't, it's hard to apply to yourself what you already
It's so
know,
hard.
right?
It's so hard. And also, I'm a psychiatrist. So, anything with the body, I'm like,
Yeah.
You're like,
Forgot
beats
about that.
me. Yeah.
Okay, you're from Santa Barbara.
I am.
And I once lived there. And what part of Santa Barbara did you live in?
In Montecito.
Montecito. Okay, so what did mom and dad do? You feel guilty, right, admitting it? We just had a guest who currently lives in Montecito, and he said Santa Barbara, and I said Montecito, and he said, yeah.
Do you go to that amazing bookstore, Godmothers? Do you know about it?
No.
What? Maybe it's after
You've been
your
gone
time.
for a while.
I've been
though,
gone
right?
for a while.
Okay, well,
I've been
it's
gone
incredible.
for like 18 years.
Okay.
I moved out. So it's changed a lot. But my mom still lives there. So and I was able to come to the podcast, and then we had a sleepover last night.
That's what I was hoping. I was
That's so
hoping you got to go to Santa
nice.
Barbara.
And there's a huge ice storm in Kansas City. It's my flight has already been canceled.
Oh,
so I'm like,
no.
okay, I guess I'll have to go be in Montecito for a couple of days.
Oh my God! Well, go to Godmothers. It's very, very cute.
Wait, how do I not? Where is it?
It's on a really cute street.
The main
have-
street. There's only that one
maybe a
main
main
street, parallel to the train tracks.
There's State Street.
State
That's the
Street,
main
correct.
It's
street.
not there.
It's on Lily Avenue.
Lily.
It's on Lily?
Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding.
I know.
Lily?
It's her middle name.
That's
I
what
know.
I mean.
It's as close as Summerland Beach.
That doesn't count.
It
That's not
doesn't?
Montecito.
Okay.
I think it is
okay.
because we went to lunch in Montecito and it was 10 minutes away or 9.
10 minutes away. It could be Carpinteria.
Oh wow,
It
you
could
guys!
be
You guys are
Santa Barbara.
Montecito is
3 blocks long.
yeah, it's 14
you
blocks.
guys are so picky.
Well, we lived there, I think is what it is.
I
You
guess
just-
so. I
I
guess.
think I know.
Okay, that's fine. So drive the 10 minutes.
So
We'll see.
what did mom and dad do in Santa Barbara or
So-
/ Montecito?
It's a funny story because my mom and dad got married, and they were from Pakistan. Got married. My dad applies all over the U.S. for a job. Doesn't get anywhere. The first job that gave him an opening as an engineer was in Santa Barbara. And he's like, sweet. And so we go there. My mom's in training because she is a pediatrician. So she's still going through a residency. And then I came out.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of lived and grew up there. And then when I was 18, I was like, okay, well, you've lived there.
Yeah.
But you didn't live there. You didn't grow up there.
Nope.
It's a weird vortex.
Oh, it was
I
weird
bet.
when I got there from Detroit. I was like, this is a very weird.
It's a weird microcosm.
Please pinpoint the things that you thought were weird, because I have my own specific.
So growing up there, it is this like weird mix of like people that have been there for like a million generations and are just trickled down, and they're on like level 1,000 of their trust fund.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're not really
Engaged.
yes in like humanity or like anything. But like no concept of like work or doing stuff or motivation. So like some people in my high school, like currently right now, they have the same jobs that they had in high school, but they're just working until their parent dies and then they can move upstairs in their house.
Yeah.
I'm delighted that we have the same observation, because I got there and I started meeting. I remember I met this girl at a coffee shop, and she was shooting meth, and she was also very interesting and pretty. And I went to her house, and it was this very nice house in Montecito, and there were other children of rich kids that were just completely neglected. There's like this whole cadre of like rich, neglected kids there that I thought was so freaky and weird.
It's weird.
I'm so curious how old you are.
I'm 39.
Okay, 39.
We're very close in age.
Yeah, very, very close.
We're the same.
Basically the same. But I am 38. I'm sorry. I just
Don't
have
be a bitch about it.
You have to be honest.
I have to be
You're
honest.
committed to being honest.
I am.
And you've had a very similar trajectory in that you two were trying to very much hide from your culture. I happen to know this
were
from
you?
a post of yours.
Okay.
So
I had purple contacts for a while because I thought that was just
I
blending in
wanted
beautifully.
them. I wanted them.
Yeah, the violet ones,
Yes.
the color blends.
Yes, I wanted them.
the irony, you guys are both such babes. It's incredible that you would be trying to become.
You're going through that in your formative years and you're already feeling like othered.
Yes.
And so you really do whatever. And like when I'm saying othered, I mean like from a physical, like in 9th grade, I show up to public school coming from private school, so I didn't really know anybody. I have my violet contacts. I have headgear during the day.
Oh boy, yeah. Not even nocturnal. We could have taken a fucking break for 6 hours.
Oh, I did. Like two periods into that school, I was like, this goes.
Yes.
You're a survivor if you went to high school with headgear.
No, you can't. You don't.
You
you
can't
don't
do
make
it.
it out.
You don't make it out. And I was like, wrong. I mean, let me deal with the palate issues
That's right.
and the overbite. I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
At a different time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, but you're kind of a wunderkind, and you get diagnosed with ADHD at 9 years old, which
Yeah.
I have to think is that's the beginning of these diagnoses. Yeah, maybe the uptick in these.
That's early.
It depends.
Where you were at, probably.
Well, also gender, right? Because like for boys, typical age of diagnosis is between 5 and 7.
Okay.
For women, do you know what it is?
40.
35 years old.
35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standard age.
Yeah.
So like usually it's like they've had their own kids. They're like, this is weird. They go to the doctor, the kid gets diagnosed, and then the mom gets diagnosed.
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay, so you do get a diagnosis, and then that's immediately helpful, yeah? In that you get medication that starts working?
Yes. It wasn't me. I'm hesitating because it's a weird story.
Okay, great. Tell it to me. Yeah.
Okay, so 4th grade. And like I always pretty boisterous as a kid. A substitute teacher comes along. I like create an insurrection in the classroom. Like I got everyone to stand up on their desks, start chanting, and like that's horrifying. I have kids. I can't imagine treating a teacher or a substitute teacher like that ever. But I was just the person who did that. Within like an hour of that happening, the substitute teacher calls my teacher. My teacher calls from a doctor's appointment. She calls my parents and she's like, do something. And so then my parents got me. My mom was a pediatrician, so I got in with a physician. I got diagnosed and I got treated, but it was so stigmatized at that time.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me my diagnosis.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why I'm like, I feel like I feel like I was diagnosed twice because then I was diagnosed, I was on medication, hugely helpful. I could even write, my parents were like, okay, take this vitamin. And I'm like, cool. And I would take, and I was like, whoa, this vitamin is working so much.
Beats the shit out of Flintstones.
Well, I took those too.
Oh, I love those.
They were
Throwback.
so chalky and disgusting.
Yeah, but I know,
terrible.
but they're so nostalgic.
So then, I was really helpful. I could sit through class. I could pay attention. I wasn't getting in trouble. I wasn't like, and school wasn't like painful for me, not because it was never hard for me before, but I was so bored. I was so bored. I was like, I can't sit here and do this. And so it became very manageable. And that kind of propelled me through this stupid vitamin. And then I did well enough throughout my schooling, through high school, that I got into a combined undergrad graduate program. So I started medical school at 18.
Wow.
It's like a condensed to a 6-year program, right? Yeah. At University of Missouri, Kansas City?
Also, my
yes.
dad went there.
He did?
You shut up right now.
Yes, he did.
Did he really?
show?
He did
Some
before he
spooky's
went
happening.
to tech.
Ashok's in the mix here.
Really?
Yeah, his sim is in the mix right
Oh,
now.
Sim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's very proud of us.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is.
So I went there and like that was the first time I'd been away from my parents. That was the first time I'd been by myself. I'm like, there's so much stuff and freedom and also laundry and all of this other stuff that I've never had to worry about because I just don't know. My mom would do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to feed
Ding,
myself.
ding, ding.
No.
Oh, sorry.
How dare you?
Your mom waited on you hand and
I
foot. and
did
you
my
know
laundry
It.
starting from age like 8.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I
you just
did. My mom tried.
Could you scream,
actively
make
tried.
me a milkshake from the bottom of the stairs, and she would make you one?
No, that's like nowadays. Back then, no, you're thinking of the wrong story. I was making a milkshake in basically the middle of the night.
Okay.
And she was like calling from her room, like, stop. Like there was a blender going and everyone was asleep. And she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm making a milkshake.
Oh.
So I was making it.
Okay.
Okay,
She also,
so you have some things a
Sorry.
little twisted.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah, but
go
I probably
on.
could yell to make me a milkshake. My mom would be like, yes, amazing. She did try to instill like skills of and I just was uninterested. Like in high school, I was playing sports and I was doing all this other stuff. And like, if you had told me like, your laundry's not going to get done, I'd be like, okay, I'll just wear my parka to school. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't care about that stuff.
Right.
And I still kind of don't care about that stuff. So there was a lot going on. And I went from being like one of the smart kids in my school to all of a sudden being quite literally the bottom of my class.
Oh,
and I was just like, what? When I realized it was like something was wrong and I brought it up to my parents is I did this neuro test. So neuroanatomy. And I stayed up and I like really tried to focus. And I was like, I know this brain inside out. Like it was really interesting to me and it was visual and like I was like, I got this. This is so easy. Go into the test. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm getting all of them. This is perfect. I'm the first one out of that test. I leave perfect. And then they had this thing where they would like post your grades with like your ID number. So like the next day I'm like showing up and I'm like, I'm still looking for my ID number. And, you're looking at all of these grades and you're like, okay, like 90, 80, whatever. And I was like, there is some loser who got a 32. And I was like, well, that's me. What happened?
Oh, yeah. What a disconnect.
I didn't flip over the test.
Oh, you just did half of the test.
I got 100% on the first. I didn't flip it over.
Okay, you'd think the
Oh, you would think. So I went and I was like, please.
Yeah.
This is going to break my self-esteem. You have to. And I was like, I'll be on the other side of the room. You can give it to me like orally. Just read me the questions. I will tell you the answers.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, you're either going to learn from this or you're not. And I was like,
wow.
okay, well, I guess I'm not. And I had to like climb out of that. So I remember telling my parents, they're like, well, are you taking your vitamin? I was like, respectfully, I don't even know where that is. Like, I don't know what you're
And
talking
you
about.
still thought it was a vitamin and
Straight
you're in
up thought
college.
it was a vitamin.
Okay, so I have a little beef with your parents.
Me too.
Okay.
This is an ongoing beef. I think that you also could have been told at 9 years old. That this notion that there's all these things we can't tell kids is silly. I don't understand why.
It was a different time, though, so
Not
maybe
terribly different. I mean, you guys are pretty young.
No. Even like
you.
when my brother was little, which is 8 years below me, ADD was like if you have that, you're problematic.
You're
Sure, but there's no reason that the child couldn't understand that they have ADHD and explain what limitations and what other things are going to be coming their way, so they have an expectation and some tolerance and some patience. They can understand that. I have a 9-year-old.
I think that could have happened, but I also think that I've thought about this a ton since I'm a parent now. Like, how would I have handled that differently? I think in that time, it was so stigmatized that there was a kid who had ADHD a couple grades above me in that private school. And that kid got expelled for putting fireworks in a toilet. Just like that was and they were like, this kid is nothing is good. Like,
he's broken.
We
bad.
don't
He's
know
defective.
what to do with him.
Yeah.
Like he can't be at school anymore. And like all the room parents were talking about it.
Yeah.
And like I was just very highly aware of this. And then I was also the only brown kid in this sea of white children. Like I already felt weird. So I think my parents probably were doing at that point what they thought was the best. They were trying to intervene.
They think they're protecting you,
yeah.
for sure.
Yes.
But I don't think lack of information is ever protection, personally.
I think that there was, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
They redeemed themselves big because I'll tell you what they did that was correct. So after that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know where my vitamin is.
Next topic.
And they're like, okay, heads up. This vitamin is actually ADHD medication. You have ADHD. I was like, wrong. No, I don't. And like, I've been medicated against my will. I feel really angry about this.
Deceived.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not gonna let's just start over. So then I really tried to apply myself in school. I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I would start studying. I would study for 12 hours a day. And I'd be so into it that I would get into periods where I was like, I should probably go eat. And I was like, no, I got to finish this chapter.
Yeah.
I was just trashing my body to get those results. I went through and I took another exam, and after my best efforts, I was like, I still got a 60%. Why? Because I was so tired the day before the test and so run down that I was foggy and I couldn't think at that time. And I was like, I have never previously, when I was on this vitamin, I never had those problems. I don't understand what's happening. And so then my dad was like, listen, you might not make it through medical school. Just come home. Who cares? Come home. Let's learn about your brain. He brings me back to California. And we just sit down and we go to a library, straight up old school library, pulling out textbooks. And both of us were just sitting on the floor. He is reading certain things about textbooks about ADHD. And he's like, this sounds like you. And I'm like, that does sound like me. And so we learned so much. And I thought it was handled in such a curious and open way.
Yeah.
And him and my mom, they both were like, we wish that we had that verbiage to tell you about that time. And we didn't know. And you were under our care for so long. We didn't know what a fracturing there would be when you left and you were out of that environment. Mm. So then, I mean, truly, I had to scrape and claw the rest to get out of that hole. But eventually, I tried a bunch of different medications, and some of them wouldn't let me eat, and some of them wouldn't let me sleep. And so, there were some that were a disaster, and there were some that were this kind of helps at times. But then it was a combination of finding a good medication and finding the right therapeutic things. And I don't think I truly figured it out until I got into residency. So after med school, when I started, I was just surrounded by psychiatrists and therapists, and I was like, this is my happy place.
Yeah.
This is great. Because they handled it in a way that was because med school, it was so hard. The whole entirety of med school, it was all of my attendings, I don't know whether I was already pegged as like a problem, but like I had an episode where there was an attending who came to my office and I didn't do very well on a test. And he was just like, you know what? And he had been kind of rough on me the whole time, but he's like, don't worry about it. You know what we're going to do? And he's like, and he takes me to my office, and we had these like little cubicle offices, and he just brings like a box with him, and he starts packing up my office, and he's like, you know what? You could just go home, and you came here for a reason. Maybe you'll meet your husband here. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
and I was so like, especially now as like a mom of a girl, I was like, if anyone spoke to my girl like that, I would be feral. I would be but like in that moment, you're so embarrassed and you're so confused. Like, why is someone who's supposed to be helping me through my educational steps doing this?
Yeah.
You just don't do anything. And so I just like kind of carried that.
Yeah.
And so, but then I feel like residency just reversed all of that because I felt traumatized in med school. And then in residency, it was like all those pieces got rebuilt. And they were like, this is what you're good at. Lead with that. And then we'll work on the back end.
Okay, so you have become specialized in ADHD.
I'm taking off my shoes.
Oh, please.
Yeah, do it.
You can dump the socks too, whatever you want.
No one's ready for that.
Okay. I would love to know the historical understanding of ADHD as a condition. I'd love to start with when maybe, I don't know, does it first enters the DSM or when does it appear? And what did we think it was then? And how would we now define it today?
So the problem with that is it has had such an evolving course and it has had so many different names. And it has, like, when it was first noticed, it was in the 1700s. And it was just like we had a patient who was extremely restless. And that's what we're describing now as like fidgeting or a sign of like that physical impulsivity. And then as it moved on, it got the name like a hyperkinetic condition. And that was an interesting kind of segue because it moved on to just like these people, it really dialed down on the hyperactive component. Yeah. Then as we kind of progressed, we didn't get into like formal ADD territory, which it's not called anymore, until like the 80s, where I believe
That's when I was introduced to this concept. It was ADD.
Yeah.
ADD. Yeah, and that's what I was
Same.
diagnosed with initially, ADD.
Yeah.
That came later, and then just recently in the DSM-5, they have. I got beef with the DSM-5, by the way.
There's a lot of beef to be had with the DSM in general.
So now we have what our standard diagnosis is ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so it's broken into 3 subtypes. So if you have ADHD, it's always called ADHD, but you can have the inattentive presentation, you can have the hyperactive presentation, or you can have the combined type, which is kind of like a combination of both.
Okay.
So a huge problem is people sometimes are like, I can't have ADHD because I'm not hyperactive. Because it's in the name.
Right. Yeah, I don't like that.
Right. It's too wide of an umbrella, we would say, maybe.
It's too wide, but it's also too narrow. Like, I feel like it focuses so stringently on just the focus components. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't touch at all on other areas of regulation. So, because I think ADHD at its base is a dysregulation error. It's a dopamine dysregulation error. So you have dopamine dysregulation when it comes to attention. You have dopamine dysregulation when it comes to impulsivity. You have dopamine dysregulation with sleep, with appetite, with emotions. Like all of that is so huge, but we never really touch on it. And with the emotional side of things in particular, this is why if we don't change that with ADHD, this is why people are going to get misdiagnosed with anxiety and depression for a million billion years.
Yeah. I guess currently, though, it is diagnosed through symptoms, yeah? But this is still a diagnosis derived from symptoms. You're reporting symptoms, and it fulfills enough criteria that we would say you have it. Mm-hmm. My curiosity is, are we approaching, or do you believe we'll get to a point where there will be different diagnostic tools, be them DNA markers, where we'll go, oh, this is, we see this, clumping of this here. Would it be fMRI brain scan where we would see something that would let us know? Is there going to be a day where we can read the actual percentages of neurotransmitters and say, oh, you have this exact cocktail that ends up to this. Like, are we approaching any kind of diagnostic tool that's not just symptom related?
No.
Okay.
But I'll tell you
Short
why.
answer.
Let me tell you why on all of those fronts. Because those are all, like, I think about that all the time. I'm like, if there was something tangible that we could grab onto and, like, check a level of something or check, like, that would be amazing. So, like, with the levels of dopamine, serotonin, like, you can usually check those. There are a lot of things floating around with, like, a urine test where you pee and then they check your levels. The reason why those are incredibly unreliable is because sometimes it's not truly that you don't have enough dopamine. It's just not present in the spot where you need it to be at the right time.
Right.
It's a dysregulation.
So what happens if, like, I come to you and I'm like, okay, I think I have it.
Yeah.
What do you ask?
So there's a couple of things. Like, the thing that makes a good ADHD diagnostic interview a good one is that not only are you checking for symptoms, but you are simultaneously ruling out other things. And I think that's what makes it such a complicated thing to do, because you see a lot of these things where you're like, I have patients who have come in and they're like, I went online for an assessment and it says I definitely have it. And I'm like, what? I mean,
Yeah.
what? And I understand, like, the thing about ADHD that I think is so, I know because I have it, when you are right in the middle of trying to navigate a brain that feels so overly chaotic for you, you are willing to point yourself in any direction to fix it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
You're desperate.
You're desperate. And that population is a vulnerable population because they are the people who, like, desperate to want help. So I understand why people are taking tests online. It's just not a super valid test because it's capturing you in a very subjective manner. It's not giving good timelines. It's not ruling out any other things. So it's just, it's giving this very skewed kind of thing. With ADHD, when you're looking at the criteria, you're screening for both the inattentive symptoms, the hyperactive symptoms, and then, obviously you'll get, if it's combined from both of those, you want to check timelines, see if these symptoms presented before 12. When you're assessing for an adult, that can get tricky because if you're asking them to recall retroactive data, that's hard. Like, a lot of people don't remember, and a lot of people have spent so much time during their childhood where their parents have kind of masked, covered up, fixed kind of symptomology that it's hard to assess. So that's difficult. You have to really dial back and kind of dig back to get good criteria. And then when you're asking questions, like, for example, with the inattentiveness, you're asking, like, is it hard to stay engaged with a task? Do you feel like it's difficulty to organize things? Do you feel like you get distracted halfway through the conversation? You're asking things about focus and focus adjacent topics, but you also have to ask, like, is this present during a depressive episode? Is this present when there's substances involved? Is this present? Did you notice this before or after you got on thyroid medication? Like, you're asking all of these things while you're doing a simultaneous screening for other things. So it becomes pretty complicated.
It's so dynamic.
It's so dynamic, and like you're doing like a comprehensive medical rule out. You're also, like, it's confusing from a psychiatric perspective. Like, is this bipolar? Is this ADHD? Is this depression? Is this anxiety? Is this trauma? Like, they're all things that overlap really beautifully and can mimic it. So you need to be able to kind of pull from the diagnosis what the patient is saying, ask the right questions to get to where you're going. And I'll tell you, a lot of people come to me 100% dead set, I have ADHD. Yeah. And by the time we're done with the interview, it's like, no, you didn't. I mean, this was trauma. This is what was causing it.
Yeah.
And so, like, it takes, like, someone who's been trained to be able to discern that.
Over a protracted period of time as well, I would imagine. This isn't something you're doing in 5 minutes.
No.
This is like, you really need to learn quite a bit before you're there.
You do need to learn a lot.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert if you dare.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Apple TV, the new U.S. home of Formula One. You can now watch complete all-access live coverage of every Grand Prix, including practice, qualifying, and sprints, all in one place. I will be consuming all of those things, Monica.
I know you will.
I kill for Friday to start watching practice one, following, and then on a sprint weekend, oh my gosh, 2 races. And this season brings a ton of new energy to the sport. New teams like Cadillac and Audi just joining the grid. New drivers stepping into major seats. Lando Norris defending his first World Drivers' Championship. And all eyes on Lewis Hamilton in his second season with Ferrari and a brand new circuit in Madrid. Plus, a new U.S. home for Formula One. You can watch every race live only on Apple TV. Watch on Apple devices, Android devices, smart TVs, streaming devices, gaming consoles, or on the web at tv.apple.com. All part of one Apple TV subscription alongside hundreds of exclusive shows and movies. Watch the Formula One Australian Grand Prix live on Saturday, March 7th at 11 p.m. Eastern, or watch race replays on demand anytime only on Apple TV, the new U.S. home of F1. We are supported by Allstate. Checking Allstate first could save you hundreds on car insurance. That's smart. Not checking your phone's battery before heading out, that'll get you every time. Of course, your phone dies on the way to meet someone, leaving you wandering around quietly panicking about being in the wrong spot. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Potential savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate North American Insurance Co. and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. We are supported by Intuit TurboTax. April 15th is coming up fast. And if you're like most people, you're probably dreading the whole tax thing. You know the old way, sitting in some waiting room for hours or sending over your tax docs and waiting for any kind of update. You want something modern and tech forward, but you also want that human connection. And this year brings a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can walk into a tech-enabled TurboTax location near you and meet face-to-face with a real tax expert. Drop off your documents in the store and see them uploaded to your TurboTax app instantly. Just like that, you're done. Your new TurboTax expert stays back and works tirelessly to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. Honestly, it feels like someone finally figured out what we've all been wanting. It's not some sterile tax office from 1987, and it's not just an app where you're on your own. It's both. The human expertise with smart modern tech. You drop off your stuff, go about your day, and get real-time updates as your expert works through everything. That's the upgrade. Head to TurboTax.com to find a store location near you and get matched with a TurboTax expert with real-time updates and iOS app. And then we probably get into the other issue, which is I'm sure it is a spectrum condition. So, what do we say that, 79% of these symptoms equals it, or 71% or whatever? When is it a disorder? When are you, one deviation below a disorder? You could still be suffering a lot of the symptoms before you're chronically
formally
in this,
diagnosed.
formally or pathologically in this condition. And it doesn't mean that's irrelevant, that you're just a step before it. So my great curiosity is, so what are the, you said... Inattentive symptoms.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about how it manifests differently in men and women and boys and girls. Because I think, to your point, I think my hunch is the DSM was originally just assembled with the boy symptoms.
Correct.
And so I imagine they really present differently in males and females. So how do they? And what are those symptoms?
So with inattentive, you're looking at difficulty with starting a task, staying engaged in a task, completing tasks, having difficulty with disorganization. You're looking at, issues with executive function, like the skills that are required for processing and getting a goal done, goal-oriented behaviors done. Those are kind of more the inattentive symptomology. Hyperactive, you're thinking more like physical and verbal impulsivity. Like these are the kids and adults who have difficulty staying in their chair. They're constantly fidgeting. They're blurting out things. They're
Interrupting.
Interrupting.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay,
ding,
also
ding,
we
ding.
should say Dax is looking for a diagnosis by the end of this.
Can I just tell you 1 second how I got interested? You must know Gabar Mate.
Yeah.
I'm walking him to his car,
Okay.
and he says to me, "Have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD?" And I just went, that's a weird thing for him to say, and he's an expert on it. So I just went like, oh, that's really interesting he said that. And then I, too, my algorithm became like everyone else's, and I start seeing these different things. I interview a friend who's been diagnosed since he was a kid, and he tells me that ADHD folks have an outsized sense of justice. And I'm like, oh, my God, I suffer. If that, in fact, is one, I definitely suffer. So, I'm just not oblivious to a lot of these things do sound a lot like me.
So here's the deal. I am not going to diagnose you.
Yeah, I don't want you to. And I'm actually not looking for that. I don't
Yeah.
care if I do or I don't have it.
Well, you should.
Okay.
You totally should. I think that there is nothing more liberating than understanding your brain. And I think that you deserve to have a good diagnosis and to know how your brain works. When I went from like not knowing what was going on, and then I sat with my dad, and then we actually went back to a physician, and he explained like these are the things that are going on in your brain, and this is why you might have difficulty with this and this. I gave myself so much, number one, grace about things that I beat myself up about for years and years.
Right. The self-flagellation, which again is, I understand, one of the conditions.
Well, I feel like, again, emotional regulation needs to be as part of that. I feel like, for example, recently I gave so my dad passed last year in April of 20.
I'm sorry.
So we found out he had lung cancer. We found out he had this spot, and and they were like, whatever, like it's annoying, but like we'll get it treated, whatever. So we get it treated. He goes through the chemo, he goes through the radiation. He calls me one day and he's like, I just don't feel great. So I like board a flight. I go over. I'm like, you look awful. Let's go and so then I take him to the hospital. Everyone's like, no, we can't do a PET scan. It's too soon. I was like, do it. Like, just like, we don't care if insurance doesn't cover it. You have to, like, something's wrong. It was everywhere. And he died 13 days later.
What?
13 days.
Oh my God.
13 days. But what I noticed is that, and I think this is probably why I feel so passionately about the emotional regulation part, is that the colliding of grief and ADHD was so destabilizing for me. It was like my brain exploded.
Yeah.
And I forgot how to do it. The brain fog was so bad. And grief, horrific for everybody. But I think for someone with ADHD who's experiencing that like emotional dysregulation already, like I had no idea how I was ever going to get through coping with those big emotions. I was like, this is too much for my brain.
Yeah.
I can't parent. I can't do the thing. I can't get through a work day and see these patients without like just losing it. So when I was going through all of that, and I had a really tough time with that, because I knew I had ADHD, and because I was like, I know that what's happening with it was hard because I was like, this is tremendous. I felt like I was completely broken down and starting from scratch. I was like, because I know how my brain works, I need to create systems that are very low lift for me right now and find a way to rebuild that way. If I didn't have a diagnosis or an understanding of my brain, like this actually makes sense to me, or this is what I believe is going on.
Yeah.
I think I would have just kept trying to do what everyone else told me to do, which didn't work.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, after he passed, I don't drink. I don't really do anything super interesting, but I was just like, my brain is so loud. I want it to be quiet right now.
Yeah. It's
I
insufferable.
want it to be quiet.
Yes.
I was just like, what can I do? Or like, I knew at that point it was my emotional regulation, and I was looking for a way to medicate this.
Yes. You needed relief.
Yeah, and I was like, that isn't something that I can medicate. This is something, my brain is having a really hard time with things that are really big.
Yeah.
And so I need to find safety to get through these kind of moments. And my husband, his mom passed because of brain cancer years before.
Boy.
So he was really well versed and tried to and supported all of us through it. But he kind of saw what I needed and helped me through that moment. But like I think if I didn't know about ADHD, I would have ended up in a really weird spot.
Yeah, I believe that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now back to the male-female differences. And my hunch was that the original criteria was probably just addressing the boy issues.
Yeah.
And you thought, you agreed. So how do they differ? How do they express differently?
So going back to like boys getting diagnosed way earlier than females, typically boys present with more of the hyperactive symptomology. So they're the ones who are causing problems in the classroom. Yeah. They are disruptive. They're getting up in the class. They're bothering others.
Well, which is probably why you got diagnosed early, because you were behaving like
because
that.
Of the coup.
Like a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yes, absolutely. And I think about that a lot. And I'm like, I'm actually pretty grateful for that presentation because it got picked up.
Exactly.
But girls, on the other hand, are mostly inattentive. They're like the daydreamers that are spacing out in class and they're doodling. So those girls are pleasures to have in class. They're not bothering anybody. They're getting passed along. Yeah. And then what happens is you get into this as the external pressures rise and as they're doing harder things, as they're doing more adult things like getting into relationships or starting families, like your needs exponentially increase and what is demanded of you increases and you just aren't or to cope anymore. And then it feels very much like a breaking point. Two other reasons that females or people assigned female at birth don't get diagnosed. Number one is the hormonal part of all of this. Like when women are going through hormonal shifts, like when your estrogen is dropping, your dopamine drops also, your symptoms get worse. Now, these women or girls who are going through their first periods or things like that, their ADHD symptoms are 10 out of 10, horrible. And they're going through, all of these attentional issues. They're also going through emotional dysregulation because they're like, what do I do? My dopamine's all off. Yeah. And that's when they're like, she's bitchy because of her period.
Right.
Are you on your period?
Well, yeah, I saw a post of yours that was like 30% PMS symptoms for ADHD girls versus 10% for the general pop.
It's significant.
Wait, really? Yeah. You feel it 30% more? Is that what you're saying?
It's more common. PMDD is significantly more common in the ADHD population. Yeah. And so it sucks because you're in a situation where you're like, okay, well, my mood is already garbage around that time before my period, but now I can't focus and I can't do the things I want to do, and it's even harder for me to emotionally deal with it. Like that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
So that's another huge one. And then the last one is quite literally just, I'm not like trying to get political here, but like it's not even political, but there is a societal difference in expectations for females. So females are expected to kind of toe the line and mask. So what is acceptable for a boy to be doing in class is very unacceptable for a girl. So the girl now learns to hide that behavior. So then what happens is that this high achieving, very capable student or child goes through life. They are now getting applauded for masking their stuff. And so when at times it becomes overwhelming and they can't, people are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so emotional? What's happening? Why are things falling apart? Why are you breaking down at work? Like, and it feels like such a huge shift in their baseline functioning. But really, they're just busting their ass trying to feel and look normal.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask if these things I've heard anecdotally or around the digital campfire are in fact people with ADHD over-index in. So there's a rejection.
Sensitive dysphoria.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I would love to tell you about that.
Yeah.
So I've become obsessed with that since my dad was sick. I mean, I was just like, what's happening? Why am I so sensitive to certain things? So rejection sensitive dysphoria is the very, very, very real emotional, sometimes physical pain that comes from real or perceived rejection or criticism. So someone criticizes you or rejects you or you think that that's happening. And all of a sudden it is like you can't stop thinking about it. You're beating yourself up about it. It is consumed. It's not just, no one likes getting rejected. That's not it. I have told my husband that I'm like, it is like, like someone sucked the air out of my lungs. It feels that significant to me. Rejection sensitive dysphoria, it is so, I think it's so important to recognize and to know about, because it's so hard for the person who's experiencing it. It's also so hard for the people around that person.
Oh, yeah.
At the
Everyone has to
relationships.
tiptoe around them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So when my husband and I get into fights, I'm so sensitive that, like, if I know we're kind of beefing with each other, like, he'll look at me and I will just, like, start crying, and then I will chase him around the house, and I'm like, and another thing, and another thing. He's like, chill out. And so, because I feel like this urgency that I have to resolve this so that this feeling goes away.
This is the email, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we do is, like, now I'm not an effective communicator when I'm in that state. I'm emotional and I'm angry and I'm scared and I'm sad and all of the things all at once, and it's too much right in that moment. So what I do is I literally write an email and I draft it and, like, usually it takes 3 or 4 passes because I'm like, that's not what I want to say. That's what I want. So already by the end of it, I've come down pretty significantly.
You've regulated a bit.
Yeah, because I've had this, like, safe place, the safety of my laptop, where I'm like, this is my happy place. I can write this down and I can take as many tries as I want to make it sound the way I want. Then I send it off to him. And we have a whole folder of this. He will then, like, usually I'll send him a text message. I'm like, I sent you something. He'll read it. And then he will think about it and process it. And usually by that time, I'm like, I'm going to just, like, go somewhere else. Like, I'll go sit in my closet, or I'll go sit in the car, or I'll go and hang out with the kids, or I'll go, like, I don't want to be around him, because then I'm, like, super, like, I'm looking for, as he's reading it, what his face is doing. And so then what he'll do is he'll respond to it, and he'll, like, make pizza rolls. And then he'll put it out, and then we'll have, like, a fun snack, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll be done. And it's, like, the best system we've ever had.
I loved reading that, because I guess my knee jerk, and this exists in my relationship, and my knee jerk is like, we are good enough communicators, and we are smart enough, and we've all done enough work that we can sit down and talk about this. That's where I come from. Like, it feels like a failure that we would have to be texting each other or emailing. But then hearing you say that, I was like, I also must admit, it does go smoother if those couple steps happen before we confront something verbally. And I guess I'm happy to be relieved of the shame of us failing and being great at talking immediately, I guess.
I don't know how people do talk immediately.
Whether it's ADHD or not, I think time is kind of important.
Time and, like, giving yourself that space to regulate before you come into and like try to resolve a situation. Because otherwise, I want, this is so messed up, but, like, I think I'm realizing now that if I come off of an argument and I want to address it right away, I want him to, like, I want to show him how hurt I feel and how badly that hurt and what, and, like, so then it's not about, like, resolving it.
Exactly, yeah.
It's about wallowing in it, and then I get angrier and madder.
Yeah. I mean, it's pause when agitated. It's this.
Yeah,
it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
How about the this inflated sense of justice, or this inflated discomfort with injustice?
So it's obviously not a clinical term.
Okay.
But you see it in, you see it a lot in autism as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, it has to do with, like, rigidity. You know, just, like, being very rigid and, like, having a set expectation in your brain and then having it not come to fruition in the way that you planned.
Yes.
And so I think that's kind of where it stems from. And so there are people with ADHD. I mean, you're looking at, like, a huge gamut of presentations of ADHD.
Right.
So there's some people who, in order to maintain their ADHD, they have become very rigid about things. They have built these structures for themselves where it's like, this is how it has to be because this is how I can function.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I can have compassion for it. Is like, well, you're very easily dysregulated. You somehow learn this about yourself, whether you're conscious of it or not. And yes, the more things that you can map out and plan out and control, the less chance you'll have at dysregulation. So I'm sympathetic to it. And yeah, I know my thing is like the airport, right? That's my worst. All my character defects come out at the airport because like I'm being asked to cooperate with the TSA to do things that I think are illogical or make no sense. I'm powerless. People are taking photos of us. I don't like that. They might be taking pictures of my kids. Like all this big storm of things that, and I do a pretty effective job at controlling my day, normally. And so, yes, I have learned that before we leave to the airport for the best outcome, I have to have that expectation. That helps me enormously to just go like, okay, we're going to get there and some guy's going to tell you to hold your pants up and also hold your hands over your head at the same time, which you know is impossible. People are going to take pictures. They're curious, get over that. But if I walk in ill-prepared or unprepared for what's going to happen, that's when some massive dysregulation happens pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that right, we're all trying to get by. We're all trying to do. And there's some brains that are just more sensitive to these things than others.
Do you ever spend any of your time or focus thinking about the evolutionary aspect of it? I do wonder if this would even be a, quote, condition without the incredible amount of stimulation. What do you think about that?
So there's been some, thought about like if we're looking at ADHD just from evolutionary perspective and we're looking at like hunters versus gatherers, right? The ADHD people are the people who are foraging and they're going off and they're hunting and they're doing these things that involve risk and adaptation and, impulsivity to some degree.
Novelty seeking.
Yeah. And they're great at that. And now we're putting that same group of people that would thrive in that environment in a new environment. And I don't necessarily think it is, well, maybe it is due to all the stimulation, but I think it is just, society adapts and evolves based on what its needs are. And the needs are, there is just a much larger neurotypical population. Mm-hmm. And so the world is built for a neurotypical world. Mm-hmm. And so now you're expecting this population of people whose brains are wired differently to occupy space in a world that just wasn't built for them. And a really easy example of that is like for ADHD, a lot of people have delayed melatonin onset. So their brains don't feel like a normal, I feel sleepy at 10 and then I'm going to wake up at 7. Theirs are like, I want to go to sleep at 1 and I would love to wake up at 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. And that's like, but that's not where society runs. You've missed 3 hours of meetings already.
Yeah.
You're right. There was a lot of different outlets for a lot of different types of brains before, but we have really homogenized the work experience, which is you go to a box, you sit in a chair, you do this thing. There's not like, oh yeah, why don't you go explore that over that other peak? We'll weave the baskets. We're more apt to sit here and weave these baskets. Everyone has a bit of an outlet. Now it's like, no, everyone's supposed to wake up at 6. Yeah. And everyone's supposed to do this and that. So yeah, this funneling us all into the same thing, I think is there's going to be a lot of tension there.
I think it's tough. I think it's tough because you are expecting people in, as you're growing up, like to function and learn skills in an environment that's not built for them. So you're already kind of starting off at a deficit. And then, you hit adulthood and they're like, okay, fend for yourself. And you haven't really had time to like build good skills unless you've actually really like dialed down, understood ADHD, learn how to make accommodations for yourself. It's kind of like you're going through this environment that you never really figured out with schooling, like you never really grabbed hold of it. And then now you're an adult and you have to figure out what to do with it, but you don't have any of those foundational skill sets.
What do you think about the fact that like so many people, especially from social media and stuff, are self-diagnosing? Like I have a problem with that. And this comes up a lot on the show. That's partly why we were so excited to have you. This comes up a bunch. But like I think it's a problem that so many people are walking around saying, I have ADHD when they don't know if they have it or they think they have it based on what they've seen. Because for me, I'm like, well, what about the people who really have it? To me, that like takes away from this brain. It is something happening in your brain.
A neurodevelopmental condition.
Right. What are your thoughts on that?
So I kind of have a hot take on that. And my hot take is that I think self-diagnosis is actually good to a point.
Okay.
And the reason for that, and I'll tell you what the point is too, I think that it is incredibly valid to have someone learn about what is happening in their brain, find things out like on social media or in books or in literature or research that looks like them, and grab hold of that and start learning verbiage of how to describe their own internal environment. I think that's a wonderful thing, and I think that that can be a wonderful stepping stone to accessing like care. And I know that's not an accessible step for a lot of people, but that next step, I have problems with it when it moves from self-diagnosis to the medication standpoint. That's really where I start to draw the line, because when you start trying to treat yourself, you haven't done the exclusionary kind of thing to figure out what else is going on. You haven't and medications of any type, they're not without risk. You're doing things that could potentially impact other things in big ways. So if you think you have ADHD and you want to learn behavioral strategies that help an ADHD brain, go for it, man. Do it.
My hunch, Monica, is that your issue is much more the person who says, I have ADHD, so deal with this, as using it as an excuse. I don't think you would ever have a problem with someone going, I think I have ADHD, so wow, I should explore these tools that have been shown to work really well with ADHD. Let me try them. Great, these are helping. I think your fear is probably more like, oh, I proclaimed I'm this, and you have to lower your expectations of me now.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, if someone's like, oh, I think I have it, I'm going to do research and learn about it and figure out how to help myself. That's amazing. That's what I would want for everyone. But that to me is not what's happening. People are not, I think people are saying, I have it, and so I'm late.
And I think the reason I don't have an issue with it is I come from a background where alcoholics self-diagnose. That is the full premise. No one can tell you're an alcoholic. You have to tell yourself you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then you have these steps at your disposal if you want to try this. And no one's declaring, I'm an alcoholic, so deal with the fact I didn't come to work. So for me, the association with the self-diagnosis is very positive.
I think you're right to say, if you're using ADHD as an excuse, and if you're saying, I can't do this, and you don't have a formal diagnosis or you have something like that, I think for someone who does have ADHD, that can be extremely irritating.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I've been guilty of that, where people have said that, and I'm like, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
But you can't possibly know like I do. At the end of the day, I have no way of knowing that. I have no way of knowing what's going on in their brain.
Feeling.
Yeah, you don't know
what their dysfunction is. I don't know. So I've tried to peel that back and figure out and look at why is this bothering me so much?
Yeah.
Why is this bothering me so much? But I think using self-diagnosis as a tool to get steps to get a formal diagnosis, or get more access to knowledge about things and research about things so you can learn about your internal environment. I think that there is a huge space for lived experience and talking about that.
Yeah, your fear someone would be like, I have ADHD, I have time blindness, don't ever expect me to be on time.
Yeah, and that happens. And it's guys, I don't want to be on time either.
But I think it should be more like, I have ADHD. Yeah, I think I relate to this time blindness thing. What are the
tools.
3 best
Steps.
tools.
Yes.
Because I know I do have to be on time places.
Yeah. Yes. Like we all have to fill in gap. We all have stuff, and we have to
All
figure
that
out how to live in this world that's not, we're not islands.
That's why I'm going to just quickly say neurotypical is bullshit as well. It's the same
Yeah,
reason
I
the DSM
agree.
is fucked up, because it has some premise of normal, which
Right.
simply doesn't exist. There might be 8 people who don't have something going on.
There's 0 people.
But
Yeah.
we're
Zero.
all variable.
And I think the neurodivergent terminology, like that came out in it was like a psychological term that came out in the 90s. And it was really kind of this umbrella term to talk about autism and ADHD and all of these other things. And the neurotypical was just kind of like a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
Like, what's the opposite of this? Yeah, DSM has problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
How do stimulants work in the
Yeah.
brain? Why is that an effective medication?
So this is a weird area of medicine because it's not this cut and dried mechanism. So basically, where a majority of that deficit happens is that frontal lobe. So directly underneath your forehead, that's where all that executive function, judgment, processing happens. So what a stimulant does is, if you're like, from just like a very rudimentary perspective, if your brain has a million different things going on, a million different times, because of that underlying dopamine and norepinephrine dysregulation, so everything is just floating by at an incredible space, you can take a stimulant, so like a Ritalin derivative, something in that family, and it actually works a little bit counterintuitively because it slows things down. And really, it's not that it's slowing things down. It just speeds everything up to match what's going on with your brain.
It like synchronizes it almost. Yeah, it is very counterintuitive. I very much feel like I would benefit, but I also know I can't be on that
Oh my God, there's so many better things.
than being on a stimulant.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me.
Okay, so here's the deal. If you're treating ADHD, you could do it behaviorally or you could do it medicinally, right? And with medicine, for ADHD, there are stimulants and there are non-stimulants. And so the stimulants are what everyone thinks of, and they're our gold standard right now because they work well, they work reliably, and they're, you could tell pretty quickly, is this going to work or is this not going to work? So those are things like Adderall derivatives, Ritalin derivatives, those are all part of that class. But for a lot of people with ADHD, stimulants, they even the long-acting ones, they'll give you like a 6 to 8 hour coverage. But ADHD exists outside of that 6 to 8 hours. So then it's like, what are we doing for the rest of that? So non-stimulants, a lot of them give you a 24-hour coverage. For the great majority, they either fall under the category of an antidepressant or a blood pressure medication or some other class.
Interesting.
And you are getting additional benefits. So for those people who have ADHD who are also anxious, here's a medication that's going to
Like a
help with
beta blocker?
ADHD. Well, it is a blood pressure medication. So there's long-acting formulations of like blood pressure medications that can help with anxiety and ADHD. Or you're doing an antidepressant, which is going to help with depression and anxiety and ADHD. Or you could do, you could do something long-acting that people take for shift work disorder. And so it really depends on what you need and what you're looking for and what else is happening at the same time. But for a lot of people that, when they're coming to the doctor, they're assuming if I have ADHD, I need to be on a stimulant. I need to be on Vyvanse. I need to be on Adderall. I need to be on Ritalin. And 90% of the time, that's not the direction we're starting at. Because I always tell people, we need to build skills. So we need to work on that.
Yeah.
If that's not possible, because your ADHD is dysregulating everything, we need to give a medication that's going to give 24-hour coverage as much as possible so that you have a chance to kind of see and build. There's some people who just that diagnosis is so immediately lifts them. It gives them the permission to study and make changes and do those things that they don't need to be on medication.
Right.
So it's not like an absolute, you have to be on medication to treat your ADHD. But there are a lot of people that in order to build and cement those habits, they need to be on medication. And that's also an incredibly valid point. It just depends on how your brain is wired.
Yeah.
And what's going on.
So your first book, Self-Care for People with ADHD, you have over 100 tips.
Yeah.
It's fast moving. It's for an ADHD brain to read this book.
Just little page-long
Nice.
blips. I could tell you my favorite one in that book, and it's do a headstand. Which is like such a weird, but and not even like that's not the one that's going to work the best or anything. It's just the weirdest one. But there is something about that change in one, you're doing something weird. And how I figured this out is like when I was in medical school and I was studying for like organic chemistry, it was just so boring to me. I was like, I can't do this anymore. My mom would be like, just do something to change your position or just do something to distract yourself a little bit. And it was that inversion of a headstand. So that's a hilarious, not necessarily the most impactful, but that's one that if you're bored and in the middle of stuff. Another one I think that is important. So the book is broken up into separate areas, and it breaks it down in terms of like self-care, like emotional self-care, physical self-care, professional self-care, all of those other things. I think if I were to pick from those, because some of that book is also like things like giving yourself permission to grieve if you haven't gotten a diagnosis. Because a lot of these people are coming to a diagnosis late in life where it's like, I'm done with the career portion of my life. I'm done with the child rearing portion. I missed on so much, and now I'm having to grieve this diagnosis.
I bet there's a feeling of, oh man, I could have blank, which is heartbreaking.
It's hard. But what I tell patients who are in that position is that this whole time you have been building skills. You have been building structures. You have had this brain this whole time. And so now it's what you do with it. And it's how you make what you make of it with this new opportunity. And so you wouldn't have built those skills that you needed if things were different, potentially. I think another very, very important one is just making time for physical activity. And this is, I feel like such a hypocrite because I hate exercise. I hate it. I think it sucks. It's so boring and it's so hard for me to motivate myself, but it truly does make my brain work better. It truly does.
Let's talk about the forthcoming book.
Yeah.
That will be out. That's called
Too
currently
Sensitive.
Too Sensitive: Rejection, Resilience, and the Science of Feeling Deeply.
I like this.
Thank you so
So
much.
is this exclusively ADHD? Because this feels like this could encompass more than just ADHD.
No, it's not exclusively. But the thing about, like we were talking about rejection sensitive dysphoria, almost 100% of people with ADHD have rejection
I
sensitive
feel like
dysphoria.
I have ADHD now. I also have hypochondria.
The irony of all this would be,
I know that if I
Don't
have
self-diagnose.
No, I'm not. But I do have that. I do have yeah.
So the concept of rejection sensitive dysphoria, again, like I started writing this book when I was all dysregulated with my dad. Like I didn't know how to, like it came about during that time. And I was like, this is the worst part of my ADHD, my emotional dysregulation. This is the thing that it will bring me to my knees every time. Like if I can't focus or if I can't do things, like I'll make a hack around it or I'll delegate. I can't delegate someone to take care of my emotions.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, there has to be a better way to kind of think about this and learn about it and talk about it. And I think that's why I have so much beef with the DSM, because the way that I view it, it's like without talking about, by the way, Europe changed their criteria in 2019 to include emotional regulation, dysregulation as part of a core component.
Interesting.
We haven't. And so I look at it like, say your diabetes was so bad that you started to lose your vision. Okay? It's just so terrible. Now, instead of someone being like, oh, okay, well, let's fix your diabetes, they're like, no, okay, let's just give you glasses. Let's treat anxiety and depression instead of treating the underlying diabetes.
Right.
The underlying diabetes is ADHD, and the anxiety and the depression and the rejection sensitivity and the emotional dysregulation, that's what's causing the vision loss.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a symptom, not the cause.
Yeah, it's a core part of it. It's not a separate diagnosis. And so if we don't get on top of this, what happens, and I've seen it so many times, is that for women in particular, I'm seeing women who are on antidepressant number 6 or 7. They're coming to me and they're like, I don't know what to do anymore. I think I have ADHD. Did you talk to someone about this? Yes, I've talked to my doctor for years. What did they say? First thing that they're going to hear is they're going to say, well, you're doing too well. There's no way you could have ADHD. The second thing they're going to hear is, no, it's anxiety and depression. Let's treat that first. The third thing they're going to hear is after there's 6 or 7 antidepressants in, then they're going to say, listen, these antidepressants aren't working. Can I please look into ADHD? They're going to be like, we can't treat ADHD until your anxiety and depression are clear. These people aren't getting help, and it's because emotional dysregulation isn't in the criteria.
I have a loved one who has come to this late in life, and it's so fucking impressive because they've done it without any help on their own. But they said to me, I finally realized that I'm processing everything different than everyone else around me.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that these really crazed states I am going through are that thing.
Yeah.
And it has not fixed it, but it has helped me go, oh, that thing's happening, and no one else around you is really experiencing it. So if I pop off now at work or try to let everyone know, A, they don't care because they're not experiencing it.
Yeah.
And this is out without any help from anybody, just his ability to go, oh, that thing's happening.
Yeah.
Is incredibly powerful. It really, I feel like, takes a lot of the heft of it away. Just go, okay, yeah, here's that thing.
And it probably gives you a little bit more agency. The way that this book is set up is like the first part of it is like truly just the science behind rejection and a lot of the evolutionary perspective and just like the history of it, how it came about, the neurobiology, like what is actually happening, like what areas of the brain are being triggered, that amygdala is being like hyperactive because it's assessing threats all the time, even though it's not appropriate. And then the second part of the book is how deeply do you feel? So it's actually an assessment where you can actually walk through and be like, is this me? Is like, where do I fall? And it's broken down into like, okay, this is probably, you're probably in a spot where emotional sensitivity isn't a huge issue. Like you should read this if it applies to other people you love so you have better understanding. Or like, this probably does apply to you. Maybe it's not all the time. Or this is probably you. This is probably something that's pretty significant, but you haven't had really all that much verbiage for it because we don't talk about it. And then it goes into the tools you use. There's just 12 tools that you use. And then the last part of the book, which is my favorite, are real world examples of how you get triggered. So it's a quote, and then it is what's happening in your brain, and then how you get out of that moment. So when I was researching, I was pulling from all these different psychological principles. I'm like, what actually does work? So this is just like an amalgamation of all of those principles together to actually help with this select thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can immediately think of several people I can't wait to buy it for, which will be triggering, but then...
Well, good. I can't decide on the cover, so you guys can help me with that.
Oh. Well, when you see it on your nightstand, don't be triggered.
Well, Sasha, this has been a blast. You have a very popular Instagram account that I think would be very fun for people to go through because I think a lot of stuff would feel quite familiar as you describe it. Oh, there was one last thing selfishly I wanted you to talk about, and that is parenting with ADHD.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about that?
It's hard. It's hard. I think parenting with ADHD is a huge expansion of what your needs are, because not only are you having to manage your own brain, you're having to manage and guide little people's brains as well.
Help them regulate. That's really your job.
Yes, yeah. And model good behavior and do all of these things. I think that there is, from the logistical standpoint, it feels like it's just a lot to do and a lot to stay on top. Like there's stuff where I'm like, I don't, like my kids are in 2 separate classes, which is 2 different class party schedules, 2 different like field trip schedules, and 2 different teachers, and like end of school things and parent teacher conferences. And it's just like that probably doesn't sound super overwhelming, But for me, like, that's so hard for me to keep track of. And which one is this? Which one is this? And like, you have to really create good systems around that. And I think the most vital thing that I could tell anybody who is parenting with an ADHD brain is just like, give yourself grace. Let yourself mess up and have a hard time. And like, because I feel like I was so, like, when I got pregnant, I had numerous Pinterest boards of the kind of parent I wanted to be, like what I wanted their nursery to look like. And like, immediately you have this kid, you're sleep deprived, you have breast milk everywhere. It's just like, this is just not what you thought it was. And that goes out the window, and you're just like this is probably going to be harder than what I thought. And I think one of the best things that we've done as a family is work through moments that are hard and difficult kind of together and like as a team and problem solving. So there are times where I'm like, this literally happened 2 days ago where I was just like, this is hard for mom because there is so much. So when you give me a like show and tell bag and you're like, I have to do this by tomorrow, and it's 8:30 at night right before you're going to bed, and like you run down from downstairs and you're like, I forgot to do this and I have to bring it in the morning. Like that's hard for me, and I'll do that, but like this is why I like snapped at that, or this is why I had a hard time. And then what I tell my kids is like, when we have conversations like that, like, any idea is a good idea. Like, come up with solutions and let's talk about it. Yeah. And so like they were problem solving. They're like, well, he could have turned in his bag to you earlier today. Well, he could have figured out what he wanted to put in there.
Yeah, siblings are great at coming up with ideas for the other
so
sibling.
Many good ideas.
I know what he could have done.
So many good ideas.
They're not great at figuring out what they should have done, but boy, they can see right through the problem in their sister.
Yeah, I think it's just giving yourself grace, and like when you mess up, use it as a learning opportunity for everybody. And I think that like I think I was so focused on hiding parts of myself from them where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what their brain is going to look like.
Well, again, your asymmetric rejection reaction. It's like you can feel rejected from your family. You can feel rejected. Yeah. I
do.
Yeah.
I'm just like, getting burned by my 5-year-old. My feelings, but here we are.
Okay, well, this was lovely. Sasha, cannot wait for the new book. Currently, though, you could start with self-care for people with ADHD and then look for Too Sensitive, Rejection, Resilience, and the Science of Feeling Deeply. I hope you come back. This was a blast.
Yay!